Well, have you ever been on a plane and just had to send that email out? Maybe you had a client that needed to receive it. You even spent the $10 on in-flight Wi-Fi. Well, the service providers for Delta, American, Alaska, Virgin America, U.S. Airways, GoGo, as it's called, the Wi-Fi service, has gone above and beyond its willingness to work with law enforcement and the NSA in tracking what you're doing. The Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act requires telecoms and terrestrial internet service providers to allow capabilities for law enforcement and the NSA to track users when ordered. However, in a letter to the Federal Communications Commission, GoGo stated it had exceeded those requirements. Its attorney wrote, in designing its existing network, GoGo worked closely with law enforcement to incorporate functionalities and protections that would serve public safety and national security interests. This has alarmed civil liberties advocates who don't feel companies should make government monitoring easier than it already is. But what about company monitoring, like, say, Facebook? In its attempts to acquire the widely popular texting application WhatsApp, Facebook is prepared to fork over $19 billion for the service, which boasts 430 million users worldwide. But not so fast. The Federal Trade Commission is warning that while Facebook collects user information for targeted advertisements, the company must keep WhatsApp's promises not to collect names, email addresses, and other personal information after the deal goes through. Both companies have assured the public that neither service will change after the buyout, but privacy advocates are not so sure. To talk more about this, I was joined earlier by Steve Rambam, CEO of Pelorium Incorporated. I started by asking him why he thinks GoGo is being cooperative with the government.
The interesting thing is that when they were questioned about what that letter meant, they refused to specify what it is that they did. Ultimately, law enforcement has access to everything. The thing is, they're supposed to ask properly. There's supposed to be probable cause or a warrant or a subpoena or something like that. It's the belief of people in my business, I'm an investigator, it's the belief of people in my business that what they've done is they have put in a back door, which allows law enforcement, federal law enforcement, perhaps local law enforcement working through fusion centers to get direct access to everything without even having to ask. And that's incredibly troubling. In the United States, law enforcement has such open access to communications already. The need to go above and beyond, it's inconceivable what else would have to be done.
Do you think there's a reason authorities would be especially interested in in-flight internet use? It seems like mostly business people would be accessing this.
Well, it's not just that. You're dealing with transportation. They're concerned about perhaps somebody got on a plane and didn't give their true identity. Everyone today is subject to what's called electronic fingerprinting. I can look at your phone, your computer, where you go, what you do, and I can build a profile of you that even if you use an alternate identity, I can say, oh, that's Bob, oh, that's Mona, oh, that's Fred. This is a method, this is another method to track who's really on a plane, who's really sitting in seat 17A. And frankly, that's something that's really, really troubling, that things have progressed to the point where this would be useful to the federal government. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be required to use their true names and true identities and true identification on a plane. What concerns me is that this is something that would be useful to the federal government, that they are so far along in the electronic fingerprinting process that they would be able to look at the profile of somebody communicating in a seat and determine if, in fact, it's the person with that ID.
What about the international flights, though? You know, if I'm flying over Abu Dhabi, would my internet use be accessible to U.S. authorities?
The U.S. government is already monitoring everything and everyone overseas. And by the way, I'm not necessarily opposed to a lot of that. But this is just an add-on. Instead of waiting till you get off the plane and use your cell phone and use your computer, they're grabbing it right on the plane also.
Okay, well, let's talk about social media. Now, looking at how Facebook has changed from when it first started to using info for your personal info for targeted ads, even settling with the Federal Trade Commission in 2011 for deceiving people by making their information public without their knowledge. Do you think this text application, WhatsApp, will slowly begin pushing the envelope as well? Because take a look at what WhatsApp, take a listen to what they told their users. We built WhatsApp around the goal of knowing as little about you as possible. You don't give us your name, your email address. We don't know your birthday, your home address, where you work, your likes, what you search, your GPS location. None of that has ever been collected and stored. We have no plans to change it. In effect, that's what they said in the statement. What do you say to that? Facebook's acquiring them. The FTC says be careful there.
Yeah, it is ridiculously not believable. Facebook makes money by knowing as much about its users and subscribers as possible, by pigeonholing them, and by saying to advertisers, if you want 15 Chinese grandmothers with purple hair who drive Volkswagens, we can identify those people for you. There's no way in the world that it makes financial sense for Facebook to have any program or any function that gives any real anonymity or confidentiality to its users.
That was Steve Rombaume, CEO of Pelorium Incorporated.